Welcome to Indy's Real Estate Gurus. I'm Rick Ripma, your hardworking mortgage guy, and I've been in real estate and mortgages for over 34 years. My team and I believe in custom tailored loans, not the one-size-fits-all approach. We believe there is a right mortgage for you, and we believe we are the team to deliver it.
And I'm Ian Arnold, part of Rick's hardworking mortgage team. I've been in the financial industry for 15 years, helping customers rebuild their credit, get the best possible interest rate. I also have a passion in helping you secure your overall real estate dreams. And if you're anything like me, pay your home off even faster.
And if you have any real estate questions on Indy's real estate, of course, or you would like information on mortgages, give Ian or I can't talk, Ian or I a call, 317-672-1938, 317-672-1938, or you can go online at hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. And today we have Ryan. And Ryan, how do you pronounce your last name?
Radecki.
Radecki.
Yeah.
You know, that's what... Believe it or not, I looked at it, I thought, I think that's how it is, but if I think it's that way, I'm almost always wrong.
I've heard a lot worse. So
have you?
So yes,
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Me too. I got a letter one time. It was to Ripma.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
How do you like that?
That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Now, Ryan, what did you've been in real estate for how long?
If you count working for a builder, almost 20 years.
All right, 20 years.
Yep.
And so before real estate,
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that? What'd you do? Where'd you grow up?
Sure. I grew up in South Bend, Indiana, oldest of 3 children, first one to graduate college in my family, so
Awesome.
very proud of that. Didn't know, just like a lot of kids today, didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So went to junior college outside of South Bend called Holy Cross, and then went to Purdue University, got a psych degree there, and jumped into social work for a year, which at the time was paying $18,000 a year. And so
Big money.
But looking back, where I am today, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it taught me a lot of life skills. It taught me $18,000 doesn't go very far, especially with a young family at the time and so forth, and being married. So, but gained a lot of experience. Worked with mentally ill adults, and just started to realize that there was, I had to do more. And so, always had a passion for. In high school, working hard jobs, worked at UPS, sold treadmills and paint and so forth at Sears.
Okay.
And we had to sell certain maintenance agreements, they were called them. And all of a sudden I did really well at that. And they'd take you out for dinner. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of neat. And so kind of just had a passion or planted the seed for, hey, maybe I'd be all right in sales. The only thing that always knocked me down from that is that I was a man of 2 words. Very, very quiet kid. I remember holding my mom's hand and people would ask me a question and be one word answer. And so it's one thing I didn't like about myself, and I just wanted to expand and try that. So anyway, I actually met my wife in South Bend as well. We worked at the same grocery store in high school.
Okay. And
she had her stuff together from day one. She's the smartest person I know, and she's a nurse, and she had a solid career. And we were talking one night and just thinking about, well, maybe we should, I'd like to move out of here. I went to Purdue and got out of South Bend and like to see what Indianapolis is all about. So on a whim, I basically went down there, dressed up in a suit, and just started walking into places. And like, hey, are you hiring? Blah, blah, blah. And I just happened, like the second place I stopped, to walk into a local security alarm system place called Sentinel Alarm.
Okay, yeah.
And there was a 6-7 man operation. They walked in like, who the heck is this guy? Just casual, and hit it off with the boss, the sales rep. He's like, yeah, you're hired if you want to start tomorrow. Like, bam, okay. So I called my wife all excited, but also nervous as can be because I'm like, wait a minute, where am I going to live and what am I going to do? So I ended up getting an apartment in Castleton. I think Castle Creek is the name of the place. But, it was the first one in there. I had to talk the manager into letting us in before, literally the first person to move in there. It was like a week and a half before certificate of occupancy or whatever. So started living down there. Wife, of course, joined me and started taking off with this company. It was, in-home visits. You'd go out and bid on jobs, talk about security and so forth. And when I've heard on your show a couple of times, fake it till you make it. Well, I remember just not knowing anything, but like I just got to start conversations, whatever. And I'd listen to like Brian Tracy tapes and in the car, like, you're the best, and walk in there. And next thing I know, I'd start getting signed agreements and gaining confidence. And I really liked the interaction of just one-on-one or a couple in front of you versus a big group. So did that for almost 5.5, 6 years. One of my bosses at the time challenged me to call on a builder, Pulte Homes at the time, which was to gain big-time market share. He said, I've struggled for 10 years to get their business or even pick up their phone, and I challenge you to do it. At first, I was like, oh, yeah, great. This is going to be... So I went up the ladder, got a hold of the general manager of Pulte, and who's the guy to talk to. His name was Michael Meneguzzi. I'll never forget. He's like, okay. So I called at least once a week for probably a year. Never picks up. Leave message after message. Finally, the following month of the first year, he picks up and I froze. For 20 seconds, I didn't know what to say. I'm like, hello. He kept saying hello. I'm like, and I don't know what I said. I just stumbled. I'm like, told him who I work for. He goes, hey, I appreciate the call. I know you've been calling. If something changes, we'll let you know, but just stay in touch. I was like, okay. So instead of just letting it go, I said, well, I'm not going to call him every week to upset him, but let me try it 2 times a week. And so I did that for the next 6 months. And finally, he called me and said, hey, is your offer still standing to meet up? And again, I froze on the phone. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And got my boss involved. And anyway, we landed that account. And I was very excited. Long story short, didn't get some of the promises that was made and started to think about something else. But as I was doing so, I met a couple of builder reps that worked for Pulte. And they said, hey, Ryan, man, you'd kill it, new home sales. You would absolutely kill it. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like a very daunting, and there's no guarantees, right? And I was like, no, there's no guaranteed income. And I'm like, do you guys have to work every weekend? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh. And I'm just thinking in the back of my mind, because I'm a big sports fan and I love college football, for example. And I'm like, how am I going to have to sacrifice every weekend? And so anyway, after a long deliberation, I finally gained the courage to do it. And basically jumped into working for a production builder here, Beazer Homes locally. They're on the national level, but did very well. And finally just got to the point of being, I guess, burned out, so to speak, of working all those weekends and nights that decided to jump over to full-time real estate.
Yeah. I was in new home sales also.
Okay.
And I know that it seems like from new home sales, you either become a real estate agent or you get in the mortgage business.
That's true.
You learn so much about both of them
right.
that you do one of the two, it seems like. Yeah, that's an amazing story.
Yeah.
And so then you moved over to real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And moving into real estate, which is kind of funny because you said, well, wait a minute, new home sales, there's no guarantees. It's
right.
100% commission. Real estate's even more 100% commission, right? I mean, if it can be.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've looked back, it's 20 years now not having a guaranteed paycheck.
Yeah.
And so it's part of my DNA, though, now I'm a risk taker, I love to gamble. And you're gambling on yourself every day in this business.
Yep.
I mean, which is part of the draw, I think. What kind of gets you going, or at least.
Now, how did you get going?
Well, made a lot of great relationships working for that builder. You treat people right, and they typically will be loyal to you. And so, took a lot of notes, remembered a lot of names. There was hundreds of people I came in contact with that I wish I would have stayed in contact with,
Right.
But there was plenty that I did, and it kind of panned out. So as soon as I flipped over to this side of the fence, I reached out to a lot of those people, and I just started zooming. Started doing some online leads as well, but just having a foundation of good relationships up front. Besides, because most of my family and friends were still up in South Bend, so didn't have a huge spear here yet at the time.
So I got to ask, so you said since you were a quiet one to start, how did you break out of the mold to be able to like literally walk into companies and be like, hey, look, are you hiring, just off the whim? Yeah.
I think part of it stemmed that I didn't want to, I wanted to be something different. I was tired being that quiet guy, in the sense that I remember my success working in high school at Sears is would have good conversations, and wow, it's not so bad to talk to someone and just talk, And so it's like, why can't I be that person? Why to try to expand myself. And so I just naturally gained the confidence with that. And then when I jumped over the builder side, I remember my first meeting with there was 3 other people in my hiring class. And one of the guys there, he literally talked for 45 minutes about himself. And then I said maybe, I don't know, a couple paragraphs, whatever. And we got done. He's like, I heard him talking to this other guy. He's like, this guy's never going to make it. And in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, we'll see. We'll see who's going to make it. He made it, but he's not doing this business anymore. So, and I really did well beating him in sales-wise when it came to volume and so forth. So it's always that one person that's got to fuel you, I guess. And I guess I'll be thankful to him one day.
It is interesting, though, because people think that a salesperson is that gift of gab person. Mm-hmm. And I've been in sales a long time. You've been in sales a long time. I don't notice that that's really not a gift of gab person can't succeed, but I find that the person who is a little more reserved actually does a lot better, because they're better at leading a conversation, at directing a conversation, as opposed to just talking. Like that guy talked 45 minutes about himself.
Right.
Now, I don't know about you, but when I go and talk to somebody, and if they're going to just sit there and talk about themselves the whole time, right? I'm not all that interested in working with them. I don't know about you.
Zoning out, yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I have found that people really adore difference. As in, if you stand out in a way that you truly care, that they know you're listening, they know you're focused on what they want and need, and just to hear them out. It's hard to find those type of people in any type of business now. So yeah, I'm still not one of those people that talk about myself for 45 minutes, but I believe listening and truly advising based on what you hear back can really, expand on the fact that you stand out that way. Because so many salespeople, at least that I come in contact with different fields that I try to hire out, it never fails. There's always one it's all about them. They didn't hear a word I said.
Right.
And so yeah, I think people want to be listened to.
I think that's why somebody who's quieter actually can be much more successful than the person who talks all the time. Because my life was similar to yours. Mm-hmm. I actually got into bartending to get out of my shell.
Yeah.
And I knew I needed to, just like you did. We knew we needed to do something. So I bartended for a while, and it got me out of my shell. And it was safe because I was behind the bar. It wasn't like waiting tables. It just felt safe to me. So
yeah,
I get what you're saying. That's exactly what I did, and it works. I want to tell that because I think it matters to people who might be listening, who may be thinking about getting into sales, and they think, maybe I'm not cut out for it. It isn't I don't think it's the typical idea that most people have of a salesperson.
I agree. I mean, one of the beauties of our industry is that many personalities can succeed.
Yes.
It's not just the loudest guy in the room or the guy that doesn't say anything. I mean, there's many different profiles of people can succeed in this business. You just have to have the confidence that you're going to be able to do it and learn from it.
Well, I want you to be able to talk to people and work on this and improve talking more and more. So how would somebody get in contact with you where they're looking to buy or sell?
Definitely my cell phone, 317-752-5826, 317-752-5826. Texting or phone. I still pick up the phone, believe it or not. But I'll text you within a minute or faster too.
Well, yeah, they're awesome. So are you with what company are you with?
Highgarden Real Estate.
Highgarden Real Estate, yeah. And your group is
Radecki Realty Group.
Radecki Realty Group,
which is a really big group of 2 people.
2 people. Awesome. But you've been together a while.
Yes. Yeah. Angela Line is my team member. Actually met her in the new home construction business, and went after her shortly after being a year and a half into this business to work with me. When I first started getting hired, they're like, "Hey, you're going to take off. You're going to need some help." And So I'm very selective on people I work with or represent my brand, and Angela's always been a perfect representation of what I want to be.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so are you still, I know you are a little bit, you're, if you find the right person.
Yeah, absolutely. Always looking to grow. Tons of people came to me about, hey, you need to have 10 buyer's agents and blah, blah, blah. And I'm the one of the weird people that still like to show homes and still like to meet sellers. And I know a lot of people, it's not like that, but for me, I still generally love it. So yeah, I want to grow, but not to the point where I'm not in the day in and day grind.
Right. You want to do the thing you like to do, which is meet with people.
For sure.
Yeah. It's kind of, are you kind of amazed that that's what you're like since you were so quiet when you were young?
I think I'm just catching up from all the quietness back when I was a kid.
It's kind of amazing. And to get a hold of Ian or I, go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com, or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And thanks for joining Indy's Real Estate Gurus. The gurus we interview share valuable insights. They reveal their strengths, personalities, and how they'll work for you. While we hardworking mortgage guys secure your best mortgage, real estate gurus work hard too. They avoid problems the amateurs don't see. They listen, and they find unrealized opportunities. If you're buying or selling a home, a real estate guru is a valuable asset. If you're even thinking of buying or selling a home, keep listening and definitely call one of Indy's real estate gurus.
All right, so we're going to take a side step off real estate. We're going to get to know you a little bit more.
Sure.
So I got to take away your phone for 24 hours, so you can't work, so only your coworker can work for you.
Okay.
All right, but what do we catch you doing for fun?
Well, when the weather's nice like today, you'll find me on the golf course. Probably yelling at my clubs, but love to play golf.
Clubs.
Yeah, love to spend time with my family. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a big sports fan, so college football, golf, NFL, you name it. I've always had a passion for sports, so that's pretty much where you'll find me.
Yep. So does your wife, because I love sports too, so as soon as I get home, usually sports are on.
Yeah.
I don't care if it, right now is a lot of, what is the?
Tiddlywinks?
Yeah, tiddlywinks. No.
Preseason?
No, what is it? I can't, drawing a blank.
Soccer?
No, the new game all these old people are playing.
Pickleball?
Pickleball.
Yeah.
Pickleball is all over ESPN now.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and being in the summer, nobody really watches baseball. So,
Sure.
But does your wife be like, are you done? Can we watch something else?
She's definitely got better. Early in our marriage, yeah, it was a little confrontational. It's like, oh, is this all you're going to do? But she gives me my space, and but it's within reason, and we like spending time together, so it just works out. And our kids are older now; they're 21 and 24, so so it's not the same as taking them to ball games and stuff like that as it used to.
Right.
So what teams?
Well, of course, being from South Bend, I'm a big Notre Dame fan.
So you were happy this weekend?
Yes.
The big blowout by
For
Notre
sure.
Dame,
Yeah,
right?
I'm one of the
Against
few.
Navy.
I quickly found moving down here, you either love or hate Notre Dame. So yeah, growing up 2 blocks away from Notre Dame Stadium, hearing the band play every week kind of gets you going. So NFL, I'm a big Cleveland fan, Browns fan.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's painful. And being a Cleveland sports fan is painful. But the Colts are going to have some pain here shortly too. So.
Yeah.
But and then just about anything. I really got in the PGA this year watching, since I like to play golf. So it's been fun to watch a lot of those guys just kill it.
So where do you play at mostly around here?
I like to play all over. I'm not just a standard course guy. I mean, Bear Slide is probably my favorite up in Cicero, but Trophy Club in Lebanon. Eagle Creek is a public course, but has 2 different courses out there. Just about all over. I'll even go down south quite a bit, even living on the north side. So there's beautiful thing about Indy. There's so many nice golf courses, so many different opportunities to never get bored if you like golf. So.
Yeah, I'm not a sports fan, but my wife is a huge Notre Dame fan.
Oh, sweet.
Okay, so she watched the Notre Dame game.
Yes.
I went for a bike ride.
I understand.
Did all kinds of other stuff. But we had the opposite problem of you and your wife. Mm-hmm. My wife's a sports fan, and I'm not. So she always wants to sit and watch the sports. And it's like, I want to go do something.
Wow.
So I go do something. She watches her sports.
It's
kind of weird.
I like that.
Yeah. So what is your, would you say your superpower or superpowers are?
I would say one of my old bosses working for the builder used to call me a chameleon, because I can adapt to many different personalities. The engineering guy that wants to look at, the floor plan 50 different ways, 500 different times. I can dive into that and do that. The people that are in sales like me, that like, hey, the easiest sale in the book, just where do I need to sign?
Right.
So I can move as fast or as slow as you want. But that would be one. Listening has always been a big skill, and hopefully my wife's not listening, 'cause she will disagree based on our conversations. But listening, for whatever reason, has been a quality that I've possessed well when I'm focused on doing so. And when I'm with a client, I'm with the client. I see, being on the other side of the fence working for the builder, I used to watch agents come in and out of my model that were truly engaged with their clients and those that weren't. And I think that helped me take off earlier too, of like, okay, if I'm going to be truly working with someone, I need to be truly be working with someone and not
Right.
just along for the ride. So
I think you're missing one though: resilience. To call somebody
Yeah.
every week
yeah,
for 52 weeks. I mean, we've been in the business where you got to call people. That's a tough thing to do, especially when you get answer machine after answer machine after answer machine, but you keep it up.
true. I mean, that'll be a story I can tell for a long, long time, and it was ended well. It's tough to cold call. I mean, we in this business, I haven't really met anybody that's like doing cartwheels about cold calling. But looking back, I mean, it just gained a discipline and persistence to achieve something you wanted to achieve. And I really wanted, for whatever reason, to impress the heck out of my boss that we got the account.
Yeah.
And
When he couldn't.
Yeah, right. No, he couldn't. But so yeah, that was a great memory.
Yeah. So persistence is what you said? Persistence is, yeah.
That's probably what I meant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
persistence beats resistance. Right?
Yeah. I know. But it's like you said, it's hard to do. It's hard to
is.
call that week after week after week,
Yeah.
even though it's going to voicemail. See, for me, it's easy. If I think it's going to go to voicemail, it's an easy call. We make a lot of calls, so it's just an easy call when
Yeah.
it's going to voicemail. And like you said, and they pick up, you don't know what to do.
Yep.
Well, I know. And back then we didn't have texting. I remember it was a Nextel phone, so we had to push to talk stuff. But I mean, yeah, I'm sure he hit delete a few times, but
Yeah.
I'm glad he picked up one time.
Yeah. Well, he picked up probably because he saw you kept calling and calling and
Right.
calling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it makes a difference.
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't just go after 52 calls. You just want to come work here? I need a caller like you.
I was kind of surprised he didn't go to work at Pulte.
Yeah.
That was kind of what.
Well, they actually didn't have a spot for me at the time, so the main manager called Beazer and talked to the Beazer manager.
Really?
They said, hey, you need to talk to this guy, because I really wanted to work for Pulte after talking
Yeah.
to the reps, but they didn't at the time. They were completely full. But I think it was Stacy Gillen that reached out to someone at Beazer, and that got me into the interview room at least.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just shocked because I was with the Estridge companies.
Yep.
And I spent many years on the, in the model, but then I was vice president of sales when I left. And I mean, if you found a good person, it didn't matter. You figured it out.
right.
That's what surprises me. And Pulte's a great builder, and
Yeah.
they're a force.
For sure.
Yeah.
I
But it worked
actually
out
built
for
a
you.
Pulte home when I was working at Beazer.
Did you really?
Yeah.
But it
I
worked
was
out
like,
for you.
Yeah, it did. It did. And, looking back, I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. It's just really important. So what's something that you're very proud of in your business right now?
I would have to say that I've made it. Looking back, I was like, wow. I was working for the builder. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm doing really well. I'm making good money. But I'm curious on what these real estate agents do, because they just come and go. They're not sitting at a desk like me. They're not working 12 hours a day in my mind. Come to find out, that's a whole different story. But not only when I say make it, just being a reputable name now in the real estate world, and looking at sales numbers and so forth, just hanging in there. I'll never going to be the best, but at the same time, I'm in the conversation, which to me is I'm very proud of. I mean, especially not growing up here and being from South Bend, I think that's a great accomplishment.
Yeah, it is. It's a great accomplishment, and it's a big deal in real estate just to get past like 5 years, right? And so, as soon as you said that, I was thinking, yeah, you've made it past where 90% of the people have failed. Probably more than that. 95% have failed.
Right.
They couldn't make it. So that's a huge deal. And not only have you made it, you're doing phenomenally well.
Yes, thank you.
So for us, we know we look at numbers before we have people on, and you're a guru. In our minds, you're one of the top people. So it's phenomenal.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So I do have to ask, you somewhat hinted at it. So when you were talking about the hours you put in, so what is some of the misconceptions that customers that have over real estate agents?
Well, I think most people think that we show them houses, then go home and do nothing, and then show up at the closing, which is definitely not the case. And people I come in contact with, that's not the case. But I think a lot of people as a whole that watch, HGTV, for example, or just don't realize that not only do we do a lot of work behind the scenes, but the stresses that we have to, inherit, so to speak, to keep everything afloat. A lot of people will give me feedback that, man, you stay calm all the time. You never show emotion, as in like, I was so mad, but yet you were a great sounding board. And so just absorbing like, hey, a bad appraisal just came in, or this inspection is terrible, just absorbing that and being an advocate that is a calming influence that will truly educate. I'm like, hey, maybe, you probably shouldn't walk away because of a GFCI issue,
Right, yes.
Even though your inspector scared the heck out of you about it. It's just, I think we don't sit in an office all day, but it's hard to not turn it off too. I mean, sometimes I'll get texts at 11 o'clock at night now. I used to respond to those after time, like, you know what? It's not good for anyone to respond to a text after, by midnight. So what I do to get back at people now, I text them at 5:30 when I say, good morning, how are you today? But just having balance and, so I think the good agents truly hustle, and they're truly looking out for their client. They're not just sitting by the phone, waiting for the phone to ring. So just respecting that.
Yeah. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of work behind the scenes. Just like, sitting in a model, you see the agents walk in, and it does appear that they're just out showing houses, right?
Right.
But that's such a little piece of the business.
Yes.
That there's so much more to it, and I think customers have a big misunderstanding of what happens. Not all of them. I think a lot of them appreciate it, but there's a lot that just don't get it. Right. And then HGTV has made people want to become real estate agents because they think that's what it's like, and it's not that way. True.
Yeah, it's not just about making money. I mean, surely everyone that does this job has to normally support a family or themselves, right. But if you truly love your job, you like helping people, you like educating, and when I was in college, my first major was education. Then I switched to psychology, and I use both now. It's funny that it turned out to, being a realtor, you're educating your clients, and the psychology of keeping people balanced. It's not the end of the world on certain things, or you should be excited. We just won over 20 offers, So it's funny how things kind of pan out.
Yes, it is.
So I want you to help all these people that need either your education or your psychology. So what is the best way they can get in touch with you?
Definitely my cell phone, 317-752-5826. It's 317-752-5826.
And you can get a hold of Ian or I at hardworkingmortgageguy.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. Or you can give us a call at 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938.
And now we'll get into the question of the week. And the question of the week is sponsored by, Rick and I, the Hardworking Mortgage Guys, where we believe in helping and supporting you and your realtor by sending constant updates to the loan process. We don't like living in a black hole, so we don't allow you to live in a black hole. All right, so here's a tough question for you. What was your first car?
My first car was a 1984 Honda Civic. Had a black bra. It was gold. And it ran like a champ. to the point where I basically ran it out on my dime. We I drove it through high school. I remember just getting that first drive when you get out of your driveway, how excited you are just to go get gas or whatever. But in college, my first risky trip, I guess you'd say, was driving down with a bunch of friends to Daytona Beach. And the other buddy that had a car that we were taking, both our cars were just not the greatest, and we didn't know any better. So anyway, we started driving. We're going to Kentucky, getting to Tennessee, and all of a sudden my car starts overheating, and we happen to have a mechanic, so-called know-it-all, in the back seat. That's like, oh, okay, pull over, we'll take a look at it. So he does, and he messes with under the hood for a little bit, and then slams the hood down, and then next thing you know, he's like, oh no, I think I just broke the fan. I'm like, broke the fan? What do you mean? He goes, let's start driving and see what happens, but I think I broke the fan. So I'm like, okay, I'm like, okay, whatever. So we keep driving, we actually get there, no issues. We start coming back from Florida, drove through a big time rainstorm, clears up. Next thing you know, smoke's coming out again. I'm like, oh no, are we gonna make it? I mean, we're still like 400 miles away. We pull into a gas station, and then they actually look at it, and he goes, yeah, your fan's broke. So I'm like, what? He's like, so here's what you got to do. You can drive it, but you can't, you got to just, as soon as you pull into anywhere, you got to shut off the car. So we're basically pulling into gas stations, like slamming on our brakes before the pump just to shut off the car. Otherwise, there's actual flames coming out.
Oh, wow.
So since the fan wouldn't cool the engine, only air would. So yeah, people are looking at us like, who are these guys that are pulling in 80 miles an hour and slamming on? So anyway, the car finally made it back, but it was, long story short, it was a great car.
So you turned your Honda into a VW Bug. Right. You went from a water-cooled to an air-cooled motor.
I'm sure my dad probably wasn't too happy with me at the time. But
so did they fix the fan, or did you get rid of the car?
We ended up getting rid of the car. My dad knew a lot of auto guys he worked at Sears 2 part-time. He was a firefighter, but worked odd jobs on the side.
Yeah,
and so he knew a bunch of guys that had cars, and so I don't know what ever happened with it, but that was the last around.
How did he break the fan?
To this day, I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention, but somehow or another he did.
I don't know how you do it.
I don't care what you say. The car guy got you from there to Florida.
Right. He did.
And then at least you made it halfway back. Things started happening, but you still made it all the way back.
For sure. I know. That was a scary time.
I'll bet it was.
Terrifying.
Did the other car make it no problem?
Yeah. It was I can't remember. It was a Cougar, I think. But yeah, we both.
Oh yeah, Cougars are known much more for their durability than a Honda.
For sure. And he didn't have a mechanic in his backseat, so I'm sure he was fine.
Yeah, that's a good story.
So I want to hear another story.
Yeah.
So what do you think your most memorable deal was?
It was one of my first deals. The buyer and the seller at closing were actually standing up and shouting at each other. And I remember how embarrassed I was, like how I felt like a failure for it to get to this level. Because working for a builder, you never really get to see. You didn't go to closings, and you didn't understand, like, okay, wait a minute. Part of my job is to work well with others and to make an enjoyable experience for everyone. And that was a quick learning lesson to see it get to the point at closing where both the buyer and seller pretty much wanted to punch each other. And so I promised myself moving forward that I was never going to get to that level again, because I was very embarrassed and I was very disappointed for my client that happened. Whether it was my fault or not is besides the point, but you just gain a quick responsibility, like there's a little bit more to do here on this side than just, sign paperwork. So that quickly got me going of, okay, we're going to make this nice and smooth moving forward. And hence to this day, no disputes at all, mostly smiles.
Yeah, I had a closing that I went to as a lender, and we had to close the buyer in a different room than the seller.
Yeah, that sometimes will still happen, but very seldom that I've dealt with, at least.
Well, it's an emotional, right? Everything. It's very emotional to buy a house or sell a house.
It is.
So you got all these emotions, and then little things can easily become big things when I think if both people would sit back and relax and look at it, they'd realize it's not normally that big a deal, but
Correct.
it's hard.
Yeah. And I think, us as agents and with working with lenders like yourself, I mean, we all want the same thing, and we all want everyone to be happy. And
Right.
so quickly learning that too, it's not me versus you or A versus B, and let's all work together and build good relationships, and it helps you long term too, because there's plenty of people you come in contact with 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that if you had a good experience, they're more likely to accept your offer or
Right.
want to work with you.
Right.
So
Now, I will say this, as when I bought my home, and I wasn't in the industry at the time, I was kind of shocked that when I went to the closing table and I'm sitting there, I thought it would just be me, my wife, and the title people or whatnot. And I knew my loan guy was coming in, and so I figured that would be it. I didn't realize the seller would be sitting across from me. I was like, I just never thought I mean, there was no ill will either way. I mean, he was very nice, but it was just like something I did not anticipate.
Right.
So.
It's funny now because I'll be the one. Like I said, I was the one that would say 2 words, and now I'm the one starting up conversation to break the ice, because some buyers and sellers, it's an awkward silence when you first get in there. But the next thing you know, everyone's shaking hands and laughing, and so I'm the one instigating. Hey, so just small talk, and it's funny looking back that I would be that guy just looking down at the ground, like, don't talk to me.
I'm not here.
Yeah, I'm invisible.
Yeah. Well, you've done a good job of changing.
Well, thank you.
And it's obviously it's good for your whoever you're with, buyer or seller, because you're trying to make it as nice and comfortable. And the reality is most closings are nice and comfortable, and people get along, and the people are buying are excited, and the people who are selling are excited, even though there's other emotions, and everybody tends. I mean, I've seen many of them where the seller really goes overboard to here's this and here's this and this is how this works and this is how this works, where I mean, you find that most of the time it's a pretty comfortable.
Yeah, most sellers are, there's sellers that have stacks of every warranty book, and my wife's that type of person, but I would come to the closing with, oh yeah, here's a piece of paper from about a year ago I just found in the tent. So it's nice that sellers care. It's like the transfer of good times that they've had. Most look back, and it's very emotional for some. Some people have grown, their kids have grown up there, or a family member passed away, whatever. And so most sellers want to keep the energy going to the next buyer, and good karma comes around and goes around. I believe in, and most sellers, I think, believe that too.
Yeah. But there's just so many things that can be happening, and there's so much emotion. And I find that most times when people get that upset, where they were arguing in there, and wanted to come to blood, it's not really about that. It's about something else that's happened in their lives. All the pressure and everything just kind of blows up right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I will say this. The owner or the seller who gives me all the documents of this is when this is done, this is what this, how much relief that gives me as the buyer.
Sure.
Because that's like, you took good care of this.
Absolutely.
So
I see a lot of times showing a house that they'll actually put that on the counter before you even write an offer or whatever, and I think that's a great idea, because as working with buyers, I mean, if you feel like the seller truly took care of that home, that's especially if you're a young buyer, first-time home buyer, for example, and your parents are with you and they're trying to talk you out of everything. It's like, oh yeah, well, here, look at this. The seller has meticulously maintained this property. You can tell, and the sellers that do that really, I would assume, get really good offers.
Yeah, you can kind of tell a house has been well taken care of for the most part.
Yep.
Not always, but I would guess for the most part. I don't know. I've never shown used homes. I showed new homes, and they all look pretty good to me.
Oh yeah, that's true. Coming over real estate, from working for a builder, it was like, oh wow, wait a minute, the house doesn't look perfect. It's not, the model. It's definitely a different ball game of what some people think is clean and not clean, but most sellers get it.
Yeah. So did you bring a lot of like a lot of showing the house? Did that learn a lot from new homes?
Yeah, I mean, because when you work for a builder, I mean, you're there to, of course, digest what they're looking for and then talk them into a floor plan that your builder offers. So, being on the real estate side, you're not limited to just that product,
Right.
which I found intriguing. But so I naturally gained those skills working for the builder and like that. 9 times out of 10, I'd like working with a buyer more. I've learned, you can't just be one shot man when it comes to that though. And I've learned to be a good listing agent and like working with sellers, of course. But there's still nothing better than working like with a first-time home buyer that doesn't looking bright in the headlights of, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm leaning to you because I really want to buy a home. And so that's the biggest thrill still for me, is helping that person get from point A to point B, and then happy smiles at the end.
Yeah, that most of us like the first-time home buyers because they're, most of them are fun to work with because
Sure.
you can really help them. And I think more than anything, it just feels good.
Mm-hmm.
You're helping them, which is good for them, but it helps you because you use some of the things that you've learned, and I don't know, it's a good feeling to work with a first-time home buyer, I believe.
Yeah, it is, and you can only buy your first home once, and I always explain that to everyone I work with. And I always explain that my ultimate goal here is to make that experience a great one, because if you fail at it or it sucks, it could scar you for life.
Right.
And I don't want to be a part of that conversation, so I really take that personal and want to make it great.
So when you run in, and it happens in real estate all the time, when you run into a roadblock,
Mm-hmm.
what's your process to overcome the roadblocks that you run into?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to pause and not instantly jump in. I used to, because responsiveness I feel is important, and I used to just text people back within seconds. And then I thought about it more when it came to like certain tough conversations, like, look, I got to get myself underneath here to figure this out, be calm, and then relay, because they're relying on you to listen, but also to give good advice. And so
Right.
if it's just an emotional, like, oh man, this inspection or whatever, so I got to get my head straight first and then jump in. So I'll communicate, hey, I'm with a client, or I just got this, I'm going to call you at such and such time, set good boundaries and expectations that you're going to do, and follow through and do it. But just thinking the processes through, and not, sometimes I'll talk to other agents too, or call my managing broker or whatever, and just talk through scenarios. We think we know it all, but as time goes on, there's always an instance every year we're like, well, let me reach out to someone else to see what they would do. And it's, there's a lot of people in this business that want to help each other. I feel like, especially the successful ones, and so I don't hesitate to reach out to different mentors I've had in my life.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that we believe is really critical after having all the agents that we've had on, all these very successful agents, the vast majority of them had mentors, and every single one of them is a mentor, right?
Yeah.
And that mentor is critical. Even with the experience and all that you've been through, there's always times when it helps to just talk things out with somebody else who has experience, right?
For sure. It's, like I said, you think you know it all at a certain point, and then you quickly realize that you don't. And so really becoming, unselfish in the sense of don't be embarrassed by reaching out to someone if you have a different opinion, or just listen to different opinions on the subject, and
Right.
and then be able to communicate that to your client as well. It's okay to not know it, as long as you communicate that, hey, this is the truth, and but I'm going to find out for you.
Yeah, and it's critical that you stay calm. There's enough emotion already, right?
Right.
It's critical that you stay calm through it because,
Yeah.
like you said, you've had people that they get all upset and they're upset, and later they go, "It really helped that you were so calm and collect." That makes a big difference.
Yeah, I'm never going to try to talk someone in to continue on if they're not comfortable. But I'm also not going to get to the point where I'm going to add gasoline to the fire when it's already burning pretty strong.
Right.
And like you said, emotions run high big time.
Yep.
And let people calm down a little bit and think it through, because it's such an emotional decision, such a big purchase, that you want to make sure you're making an informed decision. And sometimes you just got to relax and sleep on it, whatever. And and that's what I'll do.
Mine's always educate.
Yep.
Let them educate them so they understand. They understand what it is. They understand the consequences. They understand the options.
Right.
And then let them make the decision.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking we should start a TV show and then just do what not to say. So we just do like throw gasoline on the fire and just watch everything explode for the drama.
Oh, that would be good. That's a good idea.
So you briefly touched about it when you were talking about first-time home buyers. So what does home ownership mean for somebody in their family buying their first home?
I think it gives you a meaning of accomplishment. I remember buying my first home, and I was, as I mentioned, the first one to graduate in my family. It's a big deal. Home ownership is, you don't have someone above you knocking on the wall, and it's your own grass, and it's your own space, and so it's a sense of accomplishment that you're making it in this world. And I've met many people. You never want to stereotype a first-time home buyer. Everyone that you think of, a lot of people think of first-time home buyers as 25 years old, and I've met people in their 50s, people in their 60s, and been shocked, like, what? I've been renting for 34 years, and I'll cover my mouth like, why? but then, just being excited for them that, man, they've been working their whole life to get to this point, and then see the excitement with that too. So first, I think it's just an amazing accomplishment for anyone that can achieve it, because it's one of the most successes you can have in your life is to truly own a home.
It is one of those things, though, that sometimes people they worry so much about the whole process that they never do it, and It's not as intimidating as they think it is.
Yep, that's where the education and information comes into play. And if you're good at your job doing that, then those stresses go away, and then they can enjoy it. I mean, that's the other thing is, if you're going to work with me, I want you to enjoy looking at homes and the entire experience, not just the back end.
Right.
Because why can't it be a good time, looking at homes, or
should be,
or especially a first time. I mean, let's make this fun. And I don't have a problem with parents either. I mean, I love, people like, oh, here come the parents, and they're there, and I think the more people on board that want to share in their kids' excitement, and as long as they know that you're truly working out or looking out for their children, and not trying to get a quick sale or talk them into a bad house, then all of a sudden they can be your best advocates, really.
Right. Yep.
Because most kids listen to their parents.
I think the only
mine don't.
I don't know if mine do either, but
I think the only time you ran into an issue with, and I hear it from quite a few realtors, is the last few years where their parents are like, no, you need to offer under list. Yeah. And all realtors are like, no, we're just wasting our time if we do this.
Right.
But normally, yes, parents are always right. But let's be honest. The market always changes. So, and that's why you have a realtor.
Yeah, I take the approach that I'm here to educate the parents too. I'm not there to just, ignore them or talk over them. And so you got to prove it with facts. And I'll bring statistics. I'll work CMAs. I'll copy them on emails. And like, look, I got nothing to hide. And here's the reason why I don't recommend doing that. Mm-hmm. And some people won't listen, and then it'll play out exactly how I said it was, and then they're like, oh, I guess Ryan isn't full of it. And people always say, but that was a waste of time. I'm like, no, they finally get it. Sometimes people just need to see that happen, and then they know that they can trust you and moving forward. And then I'll see a lot of parents just disappear after that. Say, you know what, I know Ryan's going to take care of you. You're in great hands. And just let us know when the closing day is. And so that's always a great feeling. Like they trust me too.
Yeah.
And I think that's all very important.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, Ryan, let's get you some people to the closing date. What's the best way they can contact you?
Definitely my cell phone, 317-752-5826. That's 317-752-5826.
And if somebody was wanting to Google your name really quick, how would they spell your last name?
That's Radecki, Radecki.
And it's Ryan Radecki.
That's correct.
Right? And to get a hold of Ian or I, go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. Or give us a call at 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938.
A reminder, if you have any friends, family, coworkers looking to buy, sell, refinance, contact us. We'll be more than happy to help you. Ryan, thank you for joining us on our show. It's been a pleasure having you on our show.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the opportunity, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. And follow us for more Indy's Real Estate Gurus.
Branch NMLS number 33041. Rick Ripma's NMLS number 664589. Ian Arnold's NMLS number is 1995469. Equal housing opportunity. Some restrictions apply.